Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we unpack the complex, often invisible machinery of life to give you the critical insights.
Today, we are charting the ultimate internal logistics network, body fluids and circulation.
It's a huge topic.
It really is. We're looking at how the body solves its massive transport problem. I mean, how do you get oxygen and nutrients to every single cell?
And get all the waste out.
And get all the waste out continuously. So we're exploring the fluids that do the job, blood and lymph, and the incredible mechanics of the heart that drives it all.
Our mission, then, is to really understand the rules of this internal highway system. Let's start with the highway itself, with blood. You describe it as a specialized connective tissue.
It is, and it breaks down pretty neatly into two major parts. You have the liquid matrix, which we call plasma.
Okay.
And then you have what are called the formed elements, basically all the cells floating in that plasma.
Right, so let's start with the plasma. It's that straw-colored kind of viscous fluid making up a little more than half the blood's volume.
And it's mostly water, of course, about 92%. But the real action, the functional part, is in the proteins that are dissolved in it.
And there are a few key ones.
A few really key ones. You've got fibrinogen, which is all about clotting. Then globulins, they're mainly for immune defense. But the ones that are clinically so important are the albumins.
So why albumins? The notes say they help with osmotic balance, but what does that actually mean in a life or death situation?
It means they are the body's primary fluid regulators. So these big proteins, too large to easily leak out of your blood vessels.
Okay.
So if your albumin levels drop, which can happen with, say, malnutrition or liver disease, the blood can't hold on to its water anymore.
It just leaks out.
It leaks out into the surrounding tissues. You get this widespread swelling or edema, and it can cause catastrophic problems with fluid distribution. So monitoring albumin levels is a really quick way to gauge someone's overall systemic health.
Wow. Okay, so what seems like a simple balancing act is actually a critical vital sign. Let's move to the other half then, the formed elements, the cells.
And the first thing you have to appreciate here is just the sheer number of red blood cells. The erythrocytes.
They're the vast majority.
Overwhelmingly, they're your primary cargo carriers. They're made in the red bone marrow. And in mammals, they're interesting because they don't have a nucleus.
Right, to maximize space for the important stuff.
To maximize space for hemoglobin, that iron-containing protein that makes blood red and, more importantly, carries the oxygen.
And they have a limited lifespan, about 120 days, before they're taken out of circulation.
Yep. They're sent off to the spleen, which is sometimes called the graveyard of RBCs. Now, in complete contrast to the millions of red cells, you have the defense force.
The white blood cells or leukocytes?
Far, far fewer in number. They have a nucleus, they don't have any pigment, and they are highly specialized.
So who are the most important players here in this story?
Well, the most abundant are the neutrophils. They make up about 60 to 65%. Think of them as your first responders.
The ones that rush in and just eat the invaders.
Exactly. They're phagocytic. They just engulf and destroy foreign organisms. Then you have the lymphocytes, the B and T forms. They're responsible for the body's highly specific long-term immune responses.
And to round it all out, we have the platelets, the emergency repair crew.
That's a great way to put it. They're not even full cells. They're tiny fragments produced from these giant cells called megakaryocytes. And their whole job is to show up at a leak and release substances to start the clotting process.
Okay, that covers the blood. But there's another crucial fluid, the lymph. It's not in that closed circuit, but it's essential.
Absolutely. Think of lymph as the go-between. As blood flows through tiny capillaries, the pressure forces some of the water and small solutes out into the tissues.
That fluid becomes interstitial fluid.
Right. And this is where the real exchange happens. Nutrients and gases move from that fluid into the cells, and waste moves out. The lymph system collects this fluid.
So it's the middleman.
It is, and it's an active middleman. It has its own specialized lymphocytes for immune surveillance, and it has a really unique job in transporting fats absorbed from your gut.
Which is a perfect transition, actually, to our next section, the security and maintenance of this whole network, starting with that fail-safe, coagulation.
Clotting. It's the body's immediate response to a breach. You get a cut, and the system has to act fast to prevent you from losing all your blood.
And the structure it builds, the clot, is basically a mesh of fibrin threads that traps all the blood cells.
Right, and the really clever part is that it's not a single action, it's an amplification cascade.
Okay, so walk us through the simple version of that cascade.
We can boil it down to 3 key steps. First, the injury triggers an enzyme complex called thrombokinase. That's the starting gun.
Right.
Then thrombokinase, with the help of calcium ions, which are critical, converts an inactive protein called prothrombin into its active form, thrombin.
And the thrombin is the real catalyst here.
Thrombin is the key. It's the enzyme that takes soluble fibrinogen, which is always just floating around in the plasma, and converts it into the strong, insoluble fibrin mesh. It's an incredibly fast, self-amplifying process.
Amazing. From physical security to chemical security, blood grouping, the ABO and RH systems.
These are the fundamental rules for transfusion safety. The ABO system is all about which antigens or proteins are on the surface of your red blood cells.
If you have A antigens, you're type A.
Exactly. And importantly, your body naturally makes antibodies against the antigens you don't have.
Which is why compatibility is so critical.
It is, and it leads to these universal concepts. People with group O blood have no A or B antigens.
So their blood won't be attacked. Universal donors.
Correct. And group AB individuals have both antigens, but crucially, no A or B antibodies in their plasma, so they can receive any type of blood. They're universal recipients.
And then there's the RH factor, that positive or negative sign.
Right, the rhesus antigen. About 80% of people have it, making them RH positive. And this is where we can see some serious clinical drama, especially during pregnancy.
Explain that. The risk with an RH negative mother and an RH positive fetus.
Okay, so in the first pregnancy, it's usually fine. The mother's and baby's blood are kept separate by the placenta.
But during delivery, some mixing can happen.
A small amount of the baby's RH positive blood can enter the mother's circulation. Her immune system sees that Rh antigen is foreign and mounts an attack, producing Rh antibodies.
So the danger isn't for the first baby.
Not for the first one, but for any subsequent Rh-positive baby. The mother's preformed antibodies can now cross the placenta and attack the fetus's red blood cells,
Causing what's called erythroblastosis fetalis.
yes, severe anemia and jaundice in the newborn. Thankfully, we have treatments now to prevent the mother from ever making those antibodies in the first place.
A remarkable example of the immune system's power. Okay, we've covered the fluid and the security. Now for the engine, the heart.
And if you look at it through evolution, you see this constant drive for more efficiency. Fish have a two-chambered heart, single circulation. It's simple, but not very efficient.
There's a lot of mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood.
A lot. Then you move to land. Amphibians and reptiles get a three-chambered heart. It's better, but they still have what's called incomplete double circulation. There's still some mixing in that single ventricle.
But mammals and birds, we perfected it.
We did. The four-chambered heart allows for complete separation, true double circulation. You have one circuit for the lungs and a completely separate one for the body. It's essential for our high-energy, warm-blooded lifestyle.
So our heart's about the size of your fist, sits in the chest, protected by the pericardium. Two smaller upper chambers, the atria,
The receiving rooms,
and two larger, much more muscular lower chambers, the ventricles.
the pumps. And the key to making it all work are the valves. They ensure blood flows in only one direction. You have the tricuspid on the right, the bicuspid or mitral on the left, and then the semilunar valves at the exit.
What's so amazing, though, is that the heart doesn't wait for instructions from the brain. It just beats.
That's the concept of it being myogenic. It regulates itself, thanks to some specialized tissue. The sinoatrial node, or ISAN, is the pacemaker.
That's what sets the rhythm.
It generates the electrical impulse, setting that baseline rhythm of about 72 beats per minute. That signal then spreads out in a very precise way.
From the SAN to the AV node, then down the bundle of His and through the Purkinje fibers to make the ventricles contract. All of that coordination drives the cardiac cycle.
Which all happens in just 0.8 seconds. It's incredible. In less than a second, the chambers relax and fill, the atria give a final push, and then the powerful ventricles contract to eject the blood.
And the amount of blood it moves is staggering. The stroke volume, that's the amount pushed out with each beat, is about 70 milliliters.
Right. And if you multiply that by the heart rate, you get the cardiac output. For a healthy person at rest, that's about 5 liters of blood per minute.
5 liters a minute. The entire blood volume of an adult.
Pumped through your body every single minute. It's a lifetime of immense work.
And when you listen to a heart, you hear those two distinct sounds, lub and dub. What are we actually hearing?
You're not hearing the muscle contracting, you're hearing valves slam shut. The first sound, the lub, is the sound of the tricuspid and bicuspid valves closing as the ventricles begin to squeeze.
Preventing backflow.
Exactly. And the second sound, the dub, is the sound of the semilunar valves closing as the ventricles relax, stopping blood from flowing back into the heart from the arteries.
That whole mechanical process is driven by electricity, which brings us to the ECG, the electrocardiogram.
Right, the ECG is just a graphical map of that electrical activity. And those familiar peaks and troughs, they tell a very specific story.
So let's break down that story. The P wave, the QRS complex, and the T wave.
The P wave is the very first little bump. That's the electrical signal spreading across the atria, causing them to contract.
And the big spike.
The big QRS complex. That represents the depolarization of the much larger, more muscular ventricles. That's the main electrical event that starts the big squeeze, the ventricular systole.
And the final wave.
The T wave shows the ventricles resetting electrically. Repolarization, getting ready for the next beat. Clinically, just counting the QRS complexes gives you the heart rate, but any change in the shape of these waves can signal a problem.
So now let's pull back out to the big picture again, those double circulation pathways.
2 separate loops for maximum efficiency. You have the pulmonary circuit.
That's the short one. Heart to lungs and back.
Deoxygenated blood goes from the right side of the heart to the lungs, picks up oxygen, and comes back to the left side. Then you have the systemic circuit.
The long journey.
Oxygenated blood is pumped from the left ventricle out through the aorta to the entire body to deliver oxygen and nutrients, and then the deoxygenated blood returns to the right side of the heart.
And there are even specialized subsystems, like the hepatic portal system that takes blood from the gut to the liver first.
And the coronary system, which is the network of vessels that feeds the heart muscle itself. All of this is happening simultaneously, all coordinated by the autonomic nervous system.
So even though the heart has its own pacemaker,
The nervous system can step in and modulate it. If you need to run, your sympathetic nerves speed up the heart rate and increase the force of contraction.
and the opposite for when you're resting.
When you're resting, the parasympathetic signals slow things down, conserving energy. It's a constant, invisible conversation.
Which brings us to when things go wrong. The points of failure in this incredible system. Let's touch on a few common disorders.
First up is hypertension, high blood pressure. A consistent reading over 140/90. It's often called the silent killer because it can damage vital organs like the brain and kidneys over time without obvious symptoms.
Then there's coronary artery disease, or CAD atherosclerosis.
This is basically the plumbing getting clogged. It's a narrowing of the arteries that supply the heart muscle itself, usually because of plaque buildup deposits of fat, calcium, and other substances.
And if that flow is restricted enough, the heart muscle doesn't get enough oxygen.
And that causes angina, that acute chest pain.
Finally, let's clarify heart failure. It's a term people hear a lot.
Right. And it's important to be precise here. Heart failure is a condition where the heart simply isn't pumping effectively enough to meet the body's needs. It's not the same as a cardiac arrest, where the heart suddenly stops, or a heart attack, which is when heart muscle tissue actually dies.
So this deep dive has really shown us, our circulatory system is just a masterpiece of engineering. Fluid mechanics, cellular specialization, all powered by this autonomous, electrically timed pump.
And it's all constantly being fine-tuned by the nervous system and hormones. That sustained effort, it's what keeps everything going, and it's built not just to maintain, but to adapt.
Which leaves us with a final provocative thought for you. We've established that the nervous system can instantly change heart rate and contraction strength. Sympathetic speeds it up, parasympathetic slows it down.
Right, for short-term needs.
But think about a highly trained athlete. Their sustained cardiac output can be massively higher than the average 5 liters per minute. That requires long-term structural change. So the question is, what combination of mechanical and regulatory factors do you think allows the heart to adapt its output so profoundly, reflecting the system's incredible plasticity?
It really speaks to the body's amazing ability to respond to long-term demand.
An incredible system. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We hope you feel thoroughly well informed.